And there are guardrails in place in all these leagues to save teams from themselves. Why does a max contract exist in the NBA? Why can you not give guys 10-year deals? Why in the NFL can you only trade certain things at certain times? It's because teams can't be trusted to not be idiots. And GMs can't be trusted to put the long-term best interest of the team ahead of the best interest of, I don't want to move and take my kids out of school. So I am all for the guardrails, and I hate this idea. Listen, I think my team is one of the smarter teams. I think Veach is super smart. I think their ownership cares and is at least engaged. I think the Chiefs would benefit from something like this. And they are the type of team that in 7 years, at the tail end of Mahomes' career, is a time I'd be like, yeah, trade all the future picks, be as good as we can while we have Patrick, and then be awful, and I'll deal with it. But I still think it would just be bad for the league. I don't think you should be able to have an absentee owner and a bad GM, and it's like, oh, we're screwed till 2030. We're just out in the wilderness. And so I like the guardrails. I think this would be bad for the league.
Look, I think all those points make sense. The NBA's rule is you can trade picks 7 years out.
But only every other year.
Every other year, right.
The NFL you can do every year.
And that was, I believe, put in place because of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Ted Steppe.
Yes.
Cleveland.
It's like right. I think but I would be fine with it if that's what they did. I wouldn't be up in arms. But the thing that would raise my antennas is kind of the Knicks' points that the Browns suggested. One of the worst run franchises in sport.
Yeah.
All right, that they suggested it. If this came from the Chiefs or the Rams or some team that's well-run and smart, now you're right, maybe they'd have ulterior motives, but you say, this guy makes some good decisions. Look at how they run their team. The Browns are a mess.
Yeah, I actually really wholeheartedly agree with Nick, and a lot of the teams that I wholeheartedly believe in, teams like the Eagles and whatnot, they would benefit from these things like Nick was saying about the Kansas City Chiefs. You know how Roseman would be cooking in this situation. I don't want it. The NFL is already as close to perfect as you can get. It really is. It's as perfect as you possibly can get. We get new playoff teams every year. When a team is really great or they have an unbelievable quarterback, they can be great for a set period of time, and then it's really hard to try to make it work as time moves on. Maybe you got to move on from a Tyreek Hill. It's hard to, the Eagles win the Super Bowl and now they got to get rid of Nakobe Dean and Blankenship. The Seattle Seahawks win their Super Bowl. Now they got to get rid of Kenneth Walker, etc., etc. It's hard. It's hard to just win. It's hard for even the best run teams, the Rams, the Eagles, the Chiefs. It's still hard for them. They still have to make sacrifices. They have to mortgage their future. And even all of that said, even in some of the bad teams, the teams that were going nowhere and nowhere fast, they can turn it around in a blink of the eye, right? The Broncos suddenly are back to relevancy. The Patriots are in the Super Bowl. The Seahawks win the Super Bowl, even the Eagles, to keep that going on in 2016, or obviously win a Super Bowl in 2017, competitive in 2018, then things are kind of slowly taking a dive. And then in 2020, I think they win 4 wins or something like that. And then again, within 2 years, they're in the Super Bowl. That's amazing. That is really awesome. The Commanders, they're able to flip, turn it around and get into an NFC championship game overnight. The Chicago Bears, that is so important. That is so important. A team like the New York Giants have been doing nothing for what I guess a decade or, for a long time. And they get Jackson Dart and they get a little bit of energy, and now if they play their cards right, if they're organized, if they do the things that they need to do, they went out and got Harbaugh, etc., etc., they could be back to relevancy just like that. Just like that. Who knows what type of bonkers decisions the Giants would have made a couple years ago. Who knows what they would have done. Oh, we got rid of Saquon Barkley. That was a mistake. Let's just trade 5 first rounds and get so it's like just who knows the nonsense that happens. I mean, who knows. So, I'm just I don't want that. I do think the guardrails are necessary and the NFL is I am all for them trying to tinker certain rules of like how do we make kickoffs better? How do we make the game itself maybe a little bit more exciting? Do we figure out the eye in the sky with refereeing? Do we, can you challenge pass interference calls? Can you not challenge pass interference? Right? Like, have we gone too far with roughing the passer? Right. I'm all for that because that is quality of play itself. But like, yeah, something like this makes me really uncomfortable. It actually does. And I think it could go poorly more quickly. And, it is tough to see. I hate what they could do with basketball. Like they're trading, first round, second round, third round, 2 first, top 10 protected, top 15 unprotected. I'm just like what are we even looking I'm like what am I even looking at right now? Like what are we even looking at right now? And it's just all such a mess and baseball is an absolute joke. Oh, we're going to sign you to a 37-year contract where you get paid $1 billion, but we only have to pay you $1 million right now. Like it's just like whatever. Sure. Whatever you say, it's all a bunch of nonsense. It really is. Even luxury tax and stuff like that in the NBA, like it should. All be quite straightforward. This is already monopoly money to begin with. But like, because I'm the one of the people that keeps saying like, oh, quarterbacks if they take less money, blah 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 blah, you could build a better team, etc., etc. And on one side, like I think that would be great. On the other side, I'm kind of like, no, it's actually kind of good this is set up because it forces people to figure stuff out. We're kind of entering a new era of the NFL where it's kind of like, are you better off having a $100 million Baker Mayfield or $100 million Sam Darnold rather than a $60 million Dak Prescott? Like, those are real questions you have to wrestle with. Those are real questions you have to wrestle with. And I love it. It makes it hard. It makes it complicated. It makes it complex. It makes teams have to take a risk and take chances that even if they win and succeed, then it's awesome. But if they fail, yes, it obviously hurts you, but it doesn't hurt you for a half a decade where now you're just like I don't want that. And this is what I had said and this is one of my takes that I've shared, a lot, especially in 2024 when we had a couple teams really kind of rise out of, seemingly out of nowhere, like teams like the Commanders and whatnot, and the Broncos. It's just like football's better when there's more competitive teams, man. Like again, I get if you're a Broncos fan, you want the Chiefs to be trash. You want the Raiders to be trash. If you're the Eagles, like you want the Cowboys to be trash, you want the Commanders to be trash. But it was just like watching the Commanders actually be relevant and have what was more fun watching the Eagles play Jaden Daniels in the NFC Championship game this year, LA in 2024 and the other play in the other regular season games or having the Philadelphia Eagles, play Marcus Mariota or something. It's just like what has it really been fun watching the Chiefs play the Raiders over these last few years? No, it's not. What was actually really exciting? What was actually really exciting? Watching the Chiefs and the Broncos these last couple of years. That's a heck of a lot more fun than what was it Drew Lock or whatever, Fangio. Like just a mess. Like you want to watch the fact that the Cleveland Browns vs Steelers game is like who cares? Oh, we get to watch Aaron Rodgers vs Dylan Gabriel. Like okay, cool. Cool. What was awesome? Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Watching the Bengals and the Ravens. Like, oh, sign me up. Especially in 24. Those games were bonkers. Those games were insane. That's exciting. That's awesome. And so, you want more of that. You absolutely, positively want more of that. Maybe a move like this allows more of that. Maybe it allows a team like the Cleveland Browns to finally make a move. But I don't know. Their big move was we're gonna pay $230 million all guaranteed to a quarterback, and it's like that didn't work out for you. And so when you think of some of the other teams that are great, if this allows them to be even greater, well then I don't like that. If it allows even the Eagles to be greater, the Chiefs or the Rams, I'm like, for the greater good of the NFL, I don't want that. The idea that let's just think of the teams that have been consistently bad for the last, X amount of years, the Panthers, the Raiders, and again, this is all hopefully changing, especially with the Raiders and the Panthers, or not the Titans, I meant to say, but no, the Raiders, the Panthers, the Titans, the Browns, pre-Jaden Daniels, Commanders, whatever era you want to use with the New York Giants, pre-Caleb Williams and the Bears. It's just, does this get them there? Does that get them to the next level? I don't know. And then also, right, like Nick was kind of saying too, if you have a GM who's like, I might be on my way out. I don't know. Then you do take a big swing. You're like, alright, I'll trade 4 first-round picks for Micah Parsons. And you're just like, I don't know. I think on one side it can maybe help the bad teams get to the next level. I do think that the great teams will know how to use that better because they've already consistently shown to be more, a better run. And I personally think the level of parity and how difficult it is to win is great. I think that is so much better than whatever the NBA has got going on and whatever baseball certainly has going on. I think this stuff is supposed to be hard. I think it's great that a team like the Eagles win the Super Bowl and then the next year it's just like, okay, they got to wrestle with stuff. They got to let go of a whole bunch of guys. They have to try to figure this out. Same thing with the Chiefs. Same thing with the Rams. Same thing with the Seahawks. Same thing with the Patriots. This stuff is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's what makes it fun. The fact this past season, the fact that we all every single week were like we all said this collectively. We had no idea what was about to happen. Every single week we were just like, did we just witness the craziest game we've ever seen in our lives? I mean, it was just week after week after week, game after game after game, we were just like, what did we just witness? I don't want anything that's fragile. That's more fragile than it even seems. That can come and go in a blink of the eye and I don't want that. And so to me, this has potentially some upside to maybe contributing to that, but I just think the risk is too grand. I think it's too big. And I do think the Chiefs and the Rams and the Eagles and whatnot, again, it'll benefit them probably way more than it will some of the other lower teams. And it's just like, and you know what, a team like, again, let's just use the last 3 Super Bowl winners, the Chiefs, the Eagles, right? It would be the Chiefs, Eagles, and the Seahawks. If there was a way for them to leverage something like this to make it easier for them to win the next year, again, if you're a Seahawks fan, you're a Chiefs fan, you're an Eagles fan, you're like, yeah, that's great. It's all, so what? It's up to the other teams to try to figure it out. I'm like, this stuff is supposed to be hard. It's just supposed to be hard. I think it's incredible that the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017 and then 5 years later with a completely new roster, completely new team, completely new coach, completely new everything. They got back to the Super Bowl. And then in 23 things just did not look right. And then they had to be aggressive in their own right and get back to the Super Bowl. Those things are so much more impressive to me than if you could just leverage your draft capital 5 years out to just be like, yeah, we lost in 22 and then we did this, and this, now we're back in 20. Like I think that's actually a net loss, for it. So, but those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about this idea of being able to trade 5 years out, draft picks, up to 5 years? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get to some discussions. Let's get to some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.